Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Little Learners on the Go. And I am excited today. I have someone, I love her so much. I really do. Um, yes, I do. Juhei is can you tell us like a little bit about your background and what you do now?
Oh, of course. So, my name is Juhi. I have been working I am a native of the DC metropolitan area for all my sweet 22 years of life. I've never been anywhere else. I speak three languages, two very fluently. Let's see, what else do I do? I've been working in early childhood since 2021. And if my math is correct, that's about 3 years. So I've been in this field for about 3 years. I started with toddlers, my little baby 2-year-olds, and then I've worked with all ages, all the way up from like toddlers to third grade. Goodness gracious, that's a range when I really think about it. I
Yes.
have my bachelor's in early childhood education. I'm licensed to teach pre-K through third. Oof. And currently I went from being that toddler teacher in a private school early childcare system to now I'm working in as a pre-K threes, fours, and fives teacher in the public school setting. That's just a very
And
brief.
you're a nanny.
Oh, and I'm a nanny, and I've nanny.
Yes, don't leave that out.
I
So
forget
you have
that.
a range, which I like, of knowledge concerning early childhood, right? Because it's all early childhood education. So in regards to that, so from the nanny to the childcare setting to school setting, pre-K setting in a school. All right, so we're going to present it that way. But listen, this is from us as educators. Let me give you a drum roll. What you need to know. I feel like I'm like how they do it in the Brothers.
Oh
What
yeah.
you need to know to before you bring your child to child care. Some people call it daycare, some and day school, whatever you want to call it, however you want to present it. It still should be an early childhood education setting. All right, so this can range. Some people will argue. We're not here to argue that, but what we are here to do is let you all as parents know what we as educators are looking for, what you need to know. No, not what we're looking for. We want to help you out today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we want to help you out because sometimes, and um, I know that it's scary, it can be very scary. Some parents are like, oh, I can't wait. They pack them up like as soon as they were born to like roll them out the house. But it can be scary. It can be some anxiety, right? And I've seen this and heard it. Some parents don't ever want their kids to go anywhere but to school. But we want you to know as parents what you should be looking for in a program, okay? Because the bottom line is early childhood education, the first 5 years, those who know me know that I've been saying this for a very long time, are the most formative years. This is when all of the development is going on with the brain and things of that nature. There's social skills they need. All of this is during this time. So, while you may not like, or, some people don't, want to do it, I think I'm not going to try to sway you, but we want to let you know what you need to know before they come to us. So, what should a parent be looking for in a program?
So that's actually like my favorite thing that we're starting with because I recently over the summer coached three of my former families at my previous school on they were moving to different childcare settings for their toddlers who were with me before I had left my former place of employment. And one family was moving continents because of their job, and they had a very challenging experience. And so I think when you have a hard experience with your child's initial care setting, you then go on the defensive, or not even on the defensive, but just you're more cautious and looking at things with a different lens. So I think off the bat, it's hard when we talk about a lot of the markers. I think that a lot of people who know, because some families don't even know that you can ask these questions when you go on those tours of those childcare settings. It's okay to ask the director or the administration who's giving you these tours, what are your ratios? How long has your staff been here? What is your employment rate? What is your employee turnover? And then looking at the classrooms, not only themselves, do the materials look clean? Is the room well maintained? Is the building well maintained? Because ain't nobody want to send their child to a place that is run down. No one wants to work in a place that's run down. So is the staff themselves, when you see them, because sometimes, when I was working, they would take these families on the tours while we're teaching, mind you, which was already a little, but I think that's good. As much as me for the employee, it's like, oh, there's more eyes on me. It's still good to not only the accountability piece, because you always want to keep your staff and your child's teacher accountable, but for parents to see, how do the staff interact with the children? How do the staff look when they're at their job? Not just appearance wise, but their affect. Are they happy to be there? Are they engaging with the children, or are they using active engagement, or are they passively engaging with the child?
That's good, Juhei.
That's one that I even see at my current employment. Are you actively engaging the child? That's the most important thing to me, because that's what makes it the most valuable place for your child to me. As an educator and as a nanny who's worked one-on-one with children, when I go and pick up my nanny children, I'm like, how is I can scope it out from both lenses, from the family lens and from the educator lens, which is very valuable in my skill set. But those are the things where I'm like, what is the enrichment looking like? And yes, but I think as a parent, you need to look at this certain setting and how is it going to benefit not only your family situation, but also your child's experience, because early childhood is so important at this age. They learn and depending on the program's setup, if it's half day, if it's full day, if it's 3 days a week, if it's 5 days a week, your child will be spending majority of their time there. And that's a lot. And so if you break down the numbers, your child ends up spending more time in their childcare setting than with you.
Wow.
So that's why I think you need to look at that and ask those questions and really look in depthly.
Wow. You said a mouthful, but I all so valid. I think, like you said, looking at what the staff asking those questions. I've guided some families too, when they had to move or look at other things. What are they saying? What is going on, and what is next? And so that is very important to like how you're going to guide. Because one thing I want you all to know as parents, or we want you to know, is you're your child's first advocate, right? Now we're going to come in as the educators and we're going to help and we're going to advocate for your children too. But these are the things you need to be looking for. And I think when you said, especially like, is it clean? Like, yeah. You want to look at policies. You want to ask about, I know when I had my childcare, I would take the time and interview. Yes, walk you through the facility, but I would also sit and go through the whole parent handbook, right? Not always verbatim, but I would touch on things, and I would go down. The interview might be 30 minutes to an hour, but at least you walk away and you know what you're going to receive here at this facility, right? So from whatever the fees may be, if you're in a school setting, you may not have to pay a fee, but some schools charge. So, but we just want you to know, like, don't just go off of what something is being presented to you, because things have to be marketed, but what it actually is, and ask those questions. All right. So as educators, let's talk about what we're looking for.
Whoo! And this is where my experience with a very wide age range is my favorite thing. But I also take it down to the basics with my toddlers. what independent skills does your child have? That's the first thing that I'm looking for in assessing, because it's a range. Every age group, not only is it a range of like birth through, the tail ends of early childbirth through 5, but also within each age, it's a range. So I need to see what independent skills is your child toilet trained, and if not, that's okay. We're gonna work on that. But how is your child's speech, different things. I want to see where your child's at developmentally, but also it's important to me to connect with the family to understand their viewpoint of what they're expecting out of this experience and this setting, and then creating that common ground to be like, and correcting or adjusting any preconceived notions or any ideas that they may have or any expectations that they may have, and really creating that common ground for me. I think that's the basics, because your child is developing and in that range, but we got to have that homeschool connection to really get to where we need to go throughout the year.
Big time. So I want to talk about that. Let me tell you all something, parents. When your infant or your toddler, they're not a toddler till what, 3, 2, 2s and 3s, but infants, sometimes I've had infants to enter the program, and you've been holding them all. You see how I'm saying it very long? All day. You can't do that. I appreciate you. I know you love your baby, but you can't do that, because we can't do it. It's not a reality. It's not and now I want to kind of speak from a mother perspective. It's not a reality as a mom to sit there and hold the child all day. That cannot happen. You have to go to the bathroom. You have to wash clothes. Maybe you would actually like to eat. Maybe you would like to walk around. Your child, that's what Juhei was saying about developmentally from birth to 5. All of this stuff is going on developmentally with your child, and being able to acknowledge that I can put my child down and they're safe does not mean that I don't love them, right? But if you're transitioning, this is the part we really want to speak to, is that if you're transitioning them into any of these settings, you have to prepare them, because we're not going to be able to hold them all day. We're not. It's not a reality. We're not going to be able to make them a meal, or sometimes these things. You have to give us the tools to work with as well. I think we have to understand that this is a partnership and it is a give and take, but you cannot don't put unrealistic expectations on us that you may not even be doing in the home.
You got to set up for us for success and your child.
There you go. Say that again, Juhei. Say that again.
You're not just setting up your child for success. You got to set up us up for success as well. Because it's a lot going on. Not your child is not one of one in the house. They are one of, say, 10 in the setting. And we cannot. Also my back. Like, we gotta
But developmentally, we want to make sure that your child stays on task too, right? If your child's trying to walk, or we want them to walk. We would hope you
want them to walk as well, because holding them is a strain.
Right, but our job is to understand where they are developmentally and understand where they should be developmentally and help them to get there. So that doesn't mean we're not going to nurture the child. Nurturing does not mean that you're always holding the child, right? Nurturing means that you're presenting a space for them to grow, to be safe, to be nurtured, healthy. A healthy, safe environment is nurturing.
Mm-hmm. And to be safely challenged. Because there's, it might be easy one day. Because if you have a crawling, wiggly, infant to toddler who wants to get into everything, it might be easier, to make sure where they're at, to put them in the stationary little activity play center, in the playpen, or to have them on all day. But is that in challenging them in their gross motor skills? That's a sign that they're getting ready to explore, which is then going to lead them to walking. And then, getting into everything as they should within safe limits. We want to push them to get out of their comfort zone, to be able to developmentally challenge them to meet their milestones. That is the whole thing here.
You heard it straight from Judy. And I wholeheartedly agree, because I know you've seen it too, Juhei. So parents, we need you to know that it's our job to push them as well, so that they are continuously, if we hold, even if you parents hold the child all the time or don't allow them to walk, developmentally, those large motor skills, they're not going to develop like they need to. They're not. And then, it can prohibit them and actually cause delays sometimes, or, delays in their development. So that's why I wanted to do this. I've never done it from what you need to know perspective, but you need to know what you're doing or could potentially be doing. And we know that you're coming from a place of love and nurturing, but developmentally, we need you to come from that space too, because they're going to be coming into this space. We need you to let them be able to sit, 5, you can work your way up. I've talked to parents about this. Work your way up so that you can do this. If your child is 6 months and can hold their bottle, let them hold their bottle. It's okay. It's developmentally appropriate. And I've just seen this so much, especially with, infants. Like you said, sometimes we do need to push them. They shouldn't be left in a playpen or a car seat or a high chair all day long. No, they need to get out and explore. And your parents, it's your job to create that safe space, because they're going to want to do it and we're going to allow them. But when they come into our space, we're going to allow them all this space to explore, but then they go home and then they don't get to explore. It creates challenges that don't actually have to be there. So how can you prepare your child to transition from the home I just mentioned some things. Juhei, you have something to add to that?
I mean, you said it perfectly. I think the biggest thing also for me with that, which it ties into letting them walk, is to emotionally prepare your child. If your child will feed off of you, your child will read your emotions. Your child may not be able to talk yet, may not have the speech and vocabulary, but they can communicate, and your child can read your communication, from infants to 5 years old. If you have a negative attitude towards, or worry or nervousness or apprehension, which is valid, you're a parent. I would be terrified to be sending my child somewhere where, you're not going to see them for a chunk of time. That's so, you're worried for how they're going to be doing. That's going to be on the forefront of your mind all day long. Your child knows that you're worrying, and therefore they're going to pick up on that. And they're going to now, it's going to be a hard transition irregardless for those first 6 weeks, for those first 2 months. It's going to be an adjustment period. But if you approach it with your child, emotionally connect with them and explain the situation and keep being consistent, that is going to help them transition. And any transitions are hard for any age. Even as an adult going through transitional periods, it's always hard. But when you have that connection emotionally and prepare them and be consistent, that is when you will see them easily adjust, or not easily, but start to adjust and transition more smoothly,
Mm-hmm. Very good. Yeah, I totally agree. Should you expose your children to too many settings at once?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's so overwhelming, even for me as an adult, that's overstimulating. And to imagine a child going through, because you already have to transition to the first setting and now to the second and to the third. I think if you do that transition period and you still find that this is not working for your child, it's not working for you as a family, whatever it may look like, then you can go and try to adjust. But you got to stick with something first and see what that looks like.
And that was my point to asking that question, because I remember I had a family, they wanted to, and which I typically did not do with infants. They could not come part-time, right? Because that young, they need the routine, right? Especially when a child is going into a different setting. the routine had, like Juhei said, stick with something. It has to stay consistent for some time, not 2 days, not 3 days. It has to stay consistent in order for you to start seeing some results, right? And to see if this is what, to see if it's working. And so I had this infant that I allowed, I don't know how the child was, maybe they were a little under a year, which I had not done. I'm telling you, I didn't do that part-time care for infants. Well, I was allowing this infant to come, I think, 2 to 3 days a week. And so what I noticed is the child would not it was just so hard all day for them to, they were, it was not working. And so what happened is I ended up calling the family again. Now we had an interview, we talked, gave them updates and all of that. And what happened was I said, well, what is going on? Why are these transitions so hard? And it came out that they were not only keeping them at home with them one day, they were keep letting the child go with grandma a different day. So you have 3 different settings, right? 3 different probably routines, your daily schedule and timings, but it was too much for the child. It's overwhelming. And so I mentioned to this family, had I known that, I would not have enrolled the child, because it's not fair to us as providing care, and it's not fair to the child. And so that's why wanted to mention having your child in so many settings. It's too much. It's just too much on a child. And so, and I believe it becomes too much on the caregiver or the teacher. And that's why it's so important when, we're both in a school setting where we're like, okay, what's going on with your child? They need to come to school. Yes, your child's going to cry when they first go away from you. That is, like Juhei said, it may take 6 weeks. It might take 2 months. Right. And I don't know, we're not talking about just when, we all need a moment. That's not what we're referring to. We're referring to, you have to be consistent in bringing your child, right? You have to be consistent when you're transitioning them into these settings, because it matters. And this is the way they develop and understand routine. And I just have seen it and it doesn't work out well. It does not work out well at all. And more so for the child, and the ones at the staff, because we can't figure out what's going on. Think about a child who doesn't have the language to express what their needs are, or during infancy. Yes, they're going to tell us things through their behavior, but where's this behavior deriving from that doesn't need to be? That's the part we need to deal with, parents. We need you to make sure that it's consistent. For sure. Okay. So, are we nannies, Juhei, in childcare settings or the schools? Are we nannies?
Absolutely not.
I like that you're hearing it from a nanny.
Absolutely not. I am a sweet nanny. I love my nanny kids. Miss Lofty will tell you every day how I will show her pictures of my nanny kids. I love them dearly. When I was my nanny child is a former student of mine. When I was her teacher, I would make that girl work. I did not treat her how I treat her at home, like I did at school, but prior to when she was not my nanny child. Work, and I got it a lot from and thankfully my parents, when I was a toddler teacher, they were very understanding, because we have 10 children in that classroom and I love them dearly. But your child at 2 years old, don't come to me with a bottle. Do not come to me, expecting, personalized, pages long of when they ate this, and how much of it. I love your child dearly, and I'm monitoring, making sure that they're eating, but we also have to be realistic of the situation. And then even for my current age group that I work with, I love them. I'm not their nanny. I'm not your child has the independent skills to help me take care of them, but also help me teach them. you know?
That was good. That was good. That was good. Good.
I am a nanny after school hours, not during. So if your child's coming to me in my school setting right now, your child can wipe themselves, your child can take care of their basic hygiene needs, and your child can follow my directions when I need them to do something. I'm not picking up your child unless they need a hug. Sometimes we need a
But
fix.
that's different. And I'm glad I was just going to say that we are not to be in this profession with such young children, with young children. There's a level of compassion that we automatically have. So that's what I want to make sure that we understand, because this is a work of the heart, like totally, this is a work of the heart, right? And so there's a level of compassion that we will always have. That's why I'm glad you said about the hug. We're not exempt from showing your child or being nurturers. I want you all to understand that if you're an educator, especially early childhood, you have, I just mentioned this in a different podcast, 50 book bags of patience packed on. There's a nurturing part to us that is innate. It's innate. And so we are not going to ever do anything to harm your child. I'm not talking about the people who don't belong in this profession, because
Absolutely.
there's some people who absolutely do not need to be working with young children, or children, period, but young children. But what we're saying is that from being these educators who are so loving, and we do it because we love the work, we want you to understand what is required. It's required. So let's see. So we're not nannies. We're not nannies. We're not. No.
So if you want individualized care and if you can't afford it, by all means. I've had families who had a nanny and still came to my early childhood center, but respectfully, it's a different level of care that you should expect from your nanny versus your child's school, or for your child's early childhood center, or their daycare, whatever you want to call it. It's a different level of care when it's one-on-one, of course, because they're not in a full classroom of other kids, but the expectations are different, and we are not nannies. We love your child, but we are not their nanny. We are their teacher.
And we want you to know that it is important for them to socialize, to know how to work through and play with others, right? While you want them to have individual time to play with things, we want your child to. This is why educators exist, because we want your child to have a setting that's safe for them to be able to play in, right? So yes, you need to get your child ready to play with others, right? If it's that special, don't bring a special toy to a child wedding. Please. It's okay to tell, and guess what, parents? It's okay for you to tell your child no. It's okay. It's okay. They can leave that special toy in the car or at home. It's okay. It's you talking it through with them. These are the things that I'm not talking about an infant who needs their blanket. That's not what I'm referring to. Okay. They need their blanket. They need their pacifier, their bottle when they're infants. That's not what we're referring to. But those toys that are very dear to them, you're going to have to help them to separate from it before they come into these settings, because they cannot have it out with them all the time. They cannot. And so we don't want you to, don't set an expectation for your child that we're going to have to break, in a sense. You hear what I'm saying, parents? Do you agree with that, Juhei?
Absolutely. You can start from an early age setting boundaries with your child, and you will help your child in the long run by setting those boundaries. I am not arguing with a 4-year-old just because when they were 2, their mother let them get away with everything, with love and respect. But when you start setting those boundaries and those expectations from an early age, that's going to not only help their adjustment, their transitions, their education, from their development, physically, emotionally, socially, but also academically later down the line. Boundaries are important. That doesn't mean no, doesn't mean never. No just means not right now. Not doing it.
Ah, I like that. I like that. So let's talk about fostering a nurturing, safe, and solid foundation for your child's education. I think you are the perfect person. Just from having this interview with you, just hearing your heart towards it, what would you say that looks like?
I think that looks like showing up for your child's education and being prepared to be sometimes, you got to look at the news realistically. You got to look at where your child's at, but also just showing up, I think, is the bare minimum. The bare minimum is showing up for your child and being able to work with their educators, being able to work with their caregivers, being able to work and reflect within yourself, whether that be as the parent, as the teacher. You need to reflect on, where is this child at? Where am I at in supporting this child? And what are our next steps? Your child, as long as you show up and you love your child and you are ready to listen and learn and put in the work, that's the bare minimum to me. To me, it's always been that. Just showing up is always just been the foundational step to then advancing your child's development, education, emotional capacity. It's everything to me, because if you show up, that shows you care. That shows you're present. That shows that you're ready to listen. And when you're ready to listen, because sometimes as educators, we have to deliver news of where your child's at developmentally, whether that may be positive, whether they may be slightly not what you want to hear in the moment, but it's the realistics of where your child's at. That's not ever meant to be in a negative mindset or a deficit mindset, because we're always looking for that growth mindset of, what more can we be doing? What are our next steps? And for me, I think being able to just show up encompasses all of that as a foundational level.
Okay, so parents, we're going to, and then working together with the educator, working together, you want to create an environment. You want to, this is a partnership, right? And
Mhm.
so this is what we want you to know, because we want you to know it's a partnership. And please, be respectful to your educators or the child care. I mean, I have, you know, I never thought that that would happen. Some of the scenarios I found myself in with some families, why are you cursing at the person who's taking care of your child? I mean, come on, let's be respectful, okay? But why are you? I'm not talking about some crazy instance where people are not doing what they're supposed to do, right? I'm talking about having a conversation. Doesn't mean we're going to always agree. It doesn't mean that there may not be some tension, but let's be respectful to one another. You know what I mean? In regards to the person who's caring for your child.
Mhm.
Um, because there's a way, again, parents, that but we want you to know what you need to know, right? If I need to bring my child to a childcare setting or a school, then I have a need. I have a need for this space. So if you have the need for this space, then let's create a safe space for you as the parent, for your child, and for us as the educators. Because, I've just seen some stuff.
Mhm. Mhm.
But yeah, I've seen some stuff. And I'm not saying some of, if things aren't, if they're valid or whatever, then you do what you have to do. I didn't say do what you have to do, like crazy stuff, but have a conversation. Some things can just be communicate if we talk it through. I think sometimes it's easier to have a conversation about something. Does it, again, you may not agree at the end, and then that's your choice. But we're trying to build a relationship with you as the educators and we need you to do that too. That means being realistic about where your child is at this present moment. And again, like Juhei said, we're trying to push your child. We're going to push your child forward developmentally as time goes on. But we want to make sure that we are creating a partnership to work together. So you have to come in with the mindset of being able to listen to us too as educators. I think that's important. I think that's really important because sometimes it's just, I've seen it like you take care of my child and that's what you do,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, wow, where did this, how did we
But it
derive here?
goes back. We are not your child's nanny. We take care of them, but we're also educating and nurturing your child's development. This is where the communication piece that I love that you brought up, because open communication, it does, when you approach it in an open light, it doesn't, everyone always thinks confrontation. Maybe you have an issue. I've worked with several families who have not been pleased with the experience that they were having, for nicer words, with their
Mhm.
child's school, with their child's care providers, and they did not, surprisingly, did not go into the confrontation route, but they didn't go into the communication route. And thus, their child wasn't able to have that nurturing experience at school. So when you are able to communicate, and, because sometimes confrontation does happen, emotions, we're human, but you have to be able to push past that and to communicate with your child's teacher to then make sure your child is getting to where they need to be developmentally. And for you to feel that. That's important for parents to know as well. I think it's okay to communicate your needs because, like you said, you have a need if your child's here, your child's not at home with you. You know, you have a need for your child to be in this setting. But now you need to communicate. Closed mouths do not get fed. So if you are
Sure.
not communicating your needs, your child's needs, your family's needs, how are we getting to where we need to go?
We wanted you to hear straight from the educators' mouths because this is what we need from you all. This is what we need. We need to work together for the child, right? And so parents, you're gonna have to, I hope you all use this as a tool to gird yourself up and get yourself ready to let them go, right? It's not to let them go forever, but you are letting them go into this space, and we need you to get them ready. Another thing we need you to do, parents, is they need to go to sleep at night.
Ooh, please.
They need to go to sleep. They can't stay up all the time. You got to get them ready. They need to rest. They need to relax their little bodies. They need a nap. Don't you need a nap?
Yes. Your child should not have a later bedtime than me. 'Cause I've
Yeah.
seen that. And I'm
And
like,
then
oh,
you got to get them up. See how
mm,
it doesn't make sense? And then they're cranky or they're fussing or they're crying or they're having a tantrum.
and don't
And
bribe
then,
them with no lollipop, please.
oh, yeah, don't.
Candy.
We
No.
didn't even talk about the diet.
Ooh.
But a good program is going to help have a healthy, nutritious program as far as dietary needs for your child. So we're asking, maybe please don't send your child with Cheetos and Doritos
Oh, Takis. No Takis. No
and
candy.
and juices in the morning. Like, I mean, it wires them up.
Mm-hmm.
We need you to. That may be something that's been done, but we're gonna try to. We want to work towards health and safety and nutrition. That's our goal as educators, is health,
Healthy
safe,
habits.
yeah, healthy habits. So we want to introduce, fruits and vegetables. We want your child to know what that is. So these are ways that we want to help you, and I understand toddlers, little ones can be so picky, but with introducing these things to them and getting them ready and letting them know that the things that are gonna be happening, I think it's gonna help you as the parent, and it definitely helps us as the educator. And the biggest part of this piece is helping your child.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed, Juhei?
110%. I think exposing your child to, well, don't expose them to many settings, but exposing them to as many different experiences, whether it's from food to play, to people, to cultures, is how you can get it rolling for them. Living in this very diverse world that we live in, it's how you can really set the stage for them to have a bright looking future. And also, it's fun. Making it fun for your child and for you is the best way to bond and to learn.
Well, Miss Juhei said it all. We're going to end it on this note. And thank you for tuning into this episode of Little Learners on the Go.